Hi, this is Michael Waits, and welcome back to Insurance for the New Possible, a Chubb conversation. We are joined today by Marcio von Muhlen, General Manager of Insurance at Nubank, and Ignacio Sagués, Head of Digital for Chubb, LATAM. In Brazil, millions remain underinsured, facing financial vulnerability in the face of everyday risks. Traditional distribution models have struggled to bridge this gap, burdened by complexity, potential lack of trust, and limited accessibility. In this episode of Insurance for the New Possible, we explore how embedded insurance can fundamentally reshape access to protection in one of the world's most dynamic ecosystems. We want to ask some thought-provoking questions. Why are Brazil and Latin America still underinsured despite rapid growth in other financial services? How are platform businesses being leveraged to deliver protection that customers use and understand? And with cross-border expansion, how does embedded insurance adjust to new regulatory and cultural environments? Thank you both for joining the show. How are you both doing today?
Terrific. Thanks for having us.
Great. Thanks for having us.
It's great to have you both here. Okay, let's start with one big thing. Brazil and LATAM remain underinsured. What are the most persistent barriers to protection for consumers and small businesses? Let's start with you.
I'm sure there's a whole piece about complexity of products.
Go ahead.
Usually the insurance product has been a sophisticated product sold by agents mainly, and those agents have the incentive of producing complex products. So then there's a barrier of entry. Then you have the barrier that when typically people were not able to afford basic things such as groceries and education for their children, they weren't so much worried about insurance stuff or even their lives or health. As the economy grows, their needs evolve into protecting those things, those lives, and those people who they love. And that's how we partner with amazing partners such as Nubank in providing very simple products that cater for those needs.
What does it look like from your perspective? Let's talk a little bit more about some of these barriers, yeah?
Yeah, for sure. And, I grew up in Brazil and, spending a lot of time there now. You talk to people, Nubank clients about something like insurance, and a common answer will be, this isn't for me. It's too expensive. It's not relevant. It's just not something that I'm familiar with. And you dig in a little bit deeper, and there's just a general lack of trust in financial services, in a market like Brazil. I think Nubank has been a leader in, gaining trust and sort of evolving, how customer needs are met at scale. Insurance is part of that package. So I do think we're in an exciting place now where we can, address some of these challenges. I'm sure we'll be speaking about it here today. It's that relevance, simplicity, low cost, and trust in these kinds of products that keeps coming up.
So where does the trust get built, right? Because if it's like Nubank does other things besides insurance, so there's a customer base that's already there, Chubb as well, right? But how do you build that trust, and how do you maintain that trust? Because this is the key, I think, to getting people to participate. I want to get to literacy in a moment after that, but go ahead.
That's a great question. And when I think about building trust, it's about delivering, quality products over a sustained period of time with no surprises and delivering, delight throughout all the interactions that the customer has with the product or service. I think that's something that Nubank has really thrived in, is just having a really high bar, a really high product bar across everything that we do. Striving for trustworthiness, not trying to take advantage of clients at any time, and just going that extra mile, across everything that we do as a company. And then, you can extend that to additional, product lines and service lines as that trust grows over time. We're in the privileged position that we get to do that now.
Great. Well, building on what Nubank has made amazingly about building trust with clients that have no experience with financial products. The issue with insurance is that typically you are using the product, but by being insured, but you do not see as you are using it, because it's not something that you are using your credit card that you go and pay for groceries every day. So one of the main points of building trust is being there when the client needs you, and that's in the claims process. So we work a lot in simplifying the claims process with no asterisks, with no hidden clauses, about building a simple product that delivers what the client is expecting for. I think that's how we build trust in insurance in the long term.
So we were talking before we started recording, right, about how Brazil and LATAM at scale it's a really big market. I think bigger than most people who aren't directly involved realize. But it's also made up of a bunch of different countries and a bunch of different cultures, right? And I guess I'm trying to understand like how trust gets built differently in different places. The core is the same, but maybe the message delivery is different. Do you find this from traveling, Brazil and other countries in the region, that building that trust is done in a different way?
I think one way that I think about this, you have to really solve problems for people as part of the trust building
Right.
journey.
Right. In every country, those problems could be different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, I actually happened to be in Mexico a couple weeks ago, and I was at a supermarket, checking out some groceries, and I looked around and just observed, how is the checkout process going for all the people around me, and I saw. More than half of the people that were checking out taking out their wallets and then taking out cash, and then
So I want you to finish this thought. But why were you watching this? You were trying to get a sense of how do they react? No, go ahead.
Yeah, just being in product management and financial services, I every moment to understand. Okay, how are people interacting? With these things across the world. To me is hugely valuable, and we do that in formal and informal ways. So this was informal. But yeah, so watching the people check out, it's like, oh, people here pay with cash, and this was actually at a Costco, so like large, big box, large.
So not like a small mom and pop shop on the corner.
So people were buying 20, 30 items, medium to large tickets, and taking out a lot of cash, which you just don't see in America or even Brazil these days. Because just the payment methods are different.
Definitely don't see it in Thailand where I live.
Indeed. So for the Mexican market, obviously the process of getting cash out of an ATM or depositing cash or just knowing that you're walking around with a lot of cash, like that's gonna create different anxieties, different needs, and that's the kind of I think attention to. What do your customers really need? What do they worry about? And how can you meet those needs and build that trust over time? I think that's something that you have to do to be successful.
It's so interesting. We used to talk. I want to get to you in a second to answer this. Like, how is trust different in other countries and in other cultures? Question in a second. But I just want to add to this idea of, I think if you're serious, and we were joking around earlier, but I think if you're serious about like what you do, you can't get away from it in your day-to-day life. Right. And that's why I wanted to ask you. You're like, because even when you're shopping, you're like, I wonder if they're going to take out a credit card. Right? Sorry. I know the feeling.
As Marcio was saying, and of course, customers' needs are different across geographies. And Latin America is such a large continent, and it's not like, I don't know, Idaho against Minnesota customers.
No. Because they're close enough. It's a good point, though, because they're close enough to each other where, like, the guy in Idaho, when he crosses over the border into Minnesota, isn't like, whoa, what's going on over here? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but there are much more differences between a Mexican to a Colombian to a guy from Peru or Argentina,
whatever,
or even Chile. And we have different precedents and regulations and histories as a whole. We at Chubb are lucky enough to be partnering with most of the market leaders regarding business relationships with their customers. So we partner with the largest bank in Chile and with the largest retailer in Mexico. So we are lucky enough to be having relationships and knowing from our partners from their main customer needs and what are they solving for. So what we try to do usually is getting with those partners that distribute our products, such as Nubank in Brazil, but let's call it any potential partner across the region, and trying to find out those pain points that these platforms are not being able to solve correctly, and we go and build a product that is insurable, looking to solve that pain point.
You've segued super nicely for me. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add too. I mean, there's definitely the unique needs per market, but there's also universal needs, right? I mean, people want prompt service. If they have an issue,
no one's happy with like, I'll get to that tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. And the ways that you can deliver that, no one wants an app that crashes or that is hard to use.
But those are table stakes.
Yeah. But so then getting those table stakes right is
it's super hard.
It can be difficult, right?
Yeah, I'm not minimizing that at all.
Yeah, and then doing that across borders, across different markets, it's something that takes a huge amount of focus as an organization. But then also, things like measuring a net promoter score, which is, a big deal inside of Nubank. You can instrument yourselves in ways that can make that a bit easier or make it tractable.
Okay, so I was just going to ask what these pain points are from an insurance perspective, right? But part of the reason why is because of what you said about the cash thing. Like, I can't stop thinking about this because where I live, and even in Singapore, there are some places that won't take cash. They literally will not take the money that's issued by their own government, because they're so digitalized that I once, when I was here, paid one of the waitresses the bill, and she charged it on her credit card. Because I had cash with me, and I didn't have my credit cards with me. They were like in my hotel room. This is a true story. And when I came in the next time, she was like, "You have your card now, right?" I'm like, "I do. It's fine." But it was weird. But my question is, if it's that different from market to market, when you're building products, right, and you're thinking, okay, they're paying for that in cash. How do you figure out like where the pain point is insurance, and does cash come into play? Like, how do you learn all this stuff?
When you look at the customer journey end to end, you have to account for what are the common grounds, as Marcio was saying. People want a swift and clear claims matter. People want to get their certificates on the right time. So there's like this 80-20 Pareto base that the 80-20, it works across borders. It always works, and customer needs tend to look like the same. And then there's the other 20 in which there's no one-size-fits-all strategy. We need to go market by market and product by product and see what can be done and what is the market expectation, the client expectation, and what can we do actually. What is feasible.
Right, what is actually possible, yeah? But how do you disintermediate that in the sense that the claim obviously is not going to get paid in cash in Mexico? It's not going to happen. It's probably going to get sent to a bank or something like that, right? But how do you take a product that gets developed in Brazil and then move that product to Mexico while still learning about what he talked about, the Pareto principle, right? The 80-20. But that 20 still matters at some level, and then adjust that for the different markets.
I'll speak from my personal experience here. Sometimes it just works, and it can be amazing.
but when it does just work, you're just like, yes.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Or sometimes, maybe you're looking at expanding into, 8 or 9 countries, and maybe 5 or 6 of them that actually, have similar enough needs and distribution. And then for the last few, you just need people on the ground, people with experience in that market. You need feedback mechanisms. You need dashboards. You need to be reading support tickets. You just have to pay attention. And sometimes a market will surprise and delight you in ways that like you didn't expect. It's like, wow, like this product is doing really well in a way that maybe we hadn't expected. And that does happen, which is amazing. But also very often, and in areas like insurance in countries like Brazil, in Mexico and others that have a lot of complexity around, their financial system. That tends to not be the case. So then it's just a thing that, is going to require some effort.
100% on what Marcio was saying. I would say what we need to do is start not with the product, but with the customer. And then we work ourselves backwards into if this is the product that the customer wants, is it what it needs? Or perhaps there are just some tweaks here and there, and that's good enough. Just build the product, ship it, learn if it scales or not, and then gather that customer feedback, and we iterate and get it better.
So we had a whole conversation a while ago with another digital platform company, but not in your region, right? And one of the things I said was actually really interesting, that 80% of the people felt like they were included in the financial system. So financial inclusion was at 80%. This is based on a central bank study in this country, yeah? But that only 66% of the people felt like they were financially literate. So there's a good 14% gap. They were still buying the products, but they weren't 100% sure like that they knew what the products were. How do you address this idea of financial literacy, again, across this such a large and diverse region where the knowledge of the products could be completely different across the board?
One principle that you can use is sort of least surprise. So,
I like it. I'm going to write that down.
What's going to happen here, in the customer journey with a product that it may lead to surprises, whether they're, if it's a positive surprise, great. But if it's a negative surprise, how do we avoid that? So, one of the things that one can do in product development is, you actually put your products in front of people, well before they're launched. And there's ways to, prototype and do this efficiently. And you just have people go through an experience, and then you ask them questions like, what do you think happened? Like, if this scenario came up, like, what do you think?
What would you do?
What would you expect? And we do this a lot. We spend a lot of time just listening and watching, how consumers behave and react. There's a part of us, or there's a natural part of building products and services where you feel like, oh, if people don't understand it, then I have to explain it to them. And then I'm going to have to educate everyone. And on some level, like, yes, you want to do that. You want to be transparent. You're not trying to hide anything. But people are busy. People are trying to do, chances are they have other things that they're thinking about. You can't take up a ton of time. So just do the thing that most people most of the time expect, is the right thing, and then go above and beyond that. And then I think you can, begin to address this challenge.
I fully agree. My take on this is that you want to invest in closing that gap on what are you buying, or what you understand by what you're buying, on what are the customer expectations, and those journeys that may arise when you're using the product and when you're needing the product. I mean, I'm sure most of us know how to drive. Most of us know how to maybe own a car, but you are not. I'm sure you are not a specialist on the mechanics on how building a car. But yes, you need to go to the shop when there's this red light that says "Go to the shop, dude." So I would say let's invest on those key elements of the product when you are going to use it, and that there are no surprises whatsoever over there.
Yeah, and maybe just another thought here. When you're in a digital platform, the ways that you can increase this understanding can be very scalable. If you can really get it right, you can deliver an experience that millions, tens of millions, maybe over 100 million people are going to go through, and get to some clarity that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten to. And it's very hard to scale that with people, and it's expensive to scale that with people.
It's almost impossible to scale that educational part of it, the literacy part of it with individuals.
Yeah. So it's one thing I've always, I tremendously enjoy, and the types of folks who work at a place like Nubank really enjoy. It's like, wow, if we can really get this right, we can just leverage the work that we're doing. And have it be, benefit so many people at scale, and that's a really rewarding.
I feel like there's an ethos. I feel like there's a real ethos there. We've recorded with Nubank in the past, and I feel like there's this ethos that bubbles up around that kind of idea. That like, hey, I feel like offline there are conversations that go like, hey, it'll be super cool if we could scale this to like this many people because the impact would be gigantic.
Definitely.
I feel like that ethos is there. We haven't spent a moment talking about embedded insurance at all. Where does it fit in? Why don't you start?
Well, I think it fits along this whole journey about building. It's contextual plus embedded. The insurance as a product, it's not that someone will wake up one day and say, I'm really looking forward to buying my insurance for, I don't know, my phone, or for in case, I don't know, something falls in my head. So there's only not about the embedded. The embedded piece will help you will help you buy in the correct moment and in the correct context. And the context, it's the place in which it makes it relevant for you. And we were just discussing yesterday with Marcio. They are not selling car insurance at this very moment, but in case you go through a claim and you have a car crash and you have your family in there and they have access to the data that your kids were hurt and perhaps you have a problem with your broken bones. And when is a better moment for anyone to be sold a life insurance policy than that?
That's interesting.
So I'm not going to wish that on anyone.
But it's not a conversation you have, though,
But
right?
it's a very contextual and embedded relationship. You are filing a claim. You've been under a lot of stress, and you see that you're not giving any protection to yourself, to your income, and to your loved ones. So in that moment, insurance, it's not expensive anymore.
No. So can I give you a personal example? And then I'll let you obviously expand on this thought. We talked about this before we started recording, right? I worked at Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs for over 2 decades. I never had to buy insurance because it was always provided by them. It was very high quality insurance. And to be fair, I don't get sick that often. So I didn't even know what I had until like I had a kid, and then we had to make sure that all that stuff was okay. But I always had insurance. But then I stopped working there. And I just didn't get insurance until I got really sick and had to have an operation. I'm like, who's going to pay for that? But it's literally, as soon as I knew I had to get that operation, the first thing I did was go and buy health insurance. So it's exactly what you're talking about. That was my car crash. And it's, in a way, I wouldn't wish that on anybody either. But if I hadn't had that thing, I wouldn't have health insurance today. And that actually makes me super happy, right? So we can say like, oh, it's the wrong time. But for me, it was super contextual. And I made sure that I had all the right coverage and learned all the right stuff. And now I just pay my premium at the beginning of every year. And I'm super happy to have it. And I haven't had a problem since then. Don't care. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, for sure. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
And that's a great example. Coming back to some of the themes at the top of here of relevancy and context and also price. In addition to being a great time to to meet those needs and to sort of complement the experience that the individual is going through. It's also just super efficient because the ability to deliver like a right size policy at the right price and with a super streamlined hiring flow, you can do that in the context of certain certain journeys that someone's going through, and the ability to do that not only makes the product relevant, it makes it accessible, it makes it affordable, and then it also makes it trusted because you are adding some additional value to something that the customer is already doing. In the case of journeys that they might be going through within the Nubank app, as opposed to hey, let me sell you a product sort of from scratch.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. Were you going to add something?
I cannot add any more value.
Is there something unique about the markets in which you're operating that makes embedded even better, easier to use? And I guess the reason why I'm asking this question is because if you're operating in a market that's underinsured, right? So there's not this legacy platform of insurance out there. Is it easier to go through the embedded route rather than creating non-embedded products first and then educating them into this embedded thing? Do you know what I mean? Like, is there something unique about the markets where you're operating that are underinsured that just makes it easier to do this?
Yes and no. I'd say I think the general principles here are really going to apply, in any market. I think there certainly are things that are unique. Another example from the Brazil market, we offer mobile device insurance. And one of the things that I learned as I started spending more time in Brazil after being away for a while is that individuals in Brazil don't have one mobile device. Very often they'll have 2, and sometimes they'll have 3, which to me, wasn't something that I was expecting. And then you get into it, you talk to people, it's like, oh, I have my walking around device, and then I have my stay-at-home device.
Yeah.
And then folks who are sort of like Uber drivers or street vendors,
right, they'll have
their 3rd device, which is my checkout device. And it's a way to sort of organize their lives, but also to deal with the anxieties around theft and scam that are just prevalent in this market. So it's the needs are different yet again, and then how are we going to offer protection to someone that has multiple devices? Let's say, like it's something you have to think about, but also an opportunity.
Actually, on the specifics of the countries, it's hard to replicate again the American model with these large advisors making millions of dollars each guy with their own shop in the middle of nowhere. It's very difficult to photocopy, to Xerox that into Latin America. The reality is different. The GDP per capita is different. And of course, the knowledge is different. And we, for example, in what we're doing live in Nubank, we've sold millions of policies of very, very small coverage. But it's super relevant to the Nubank customer. So the particularities will shape the product and will end up having a massive impact on the society and on the NPS of those customers.
I want to ask both of you this too, right? And I'll get to you in a second. But this is super interesting to me, right? Again, because it's underinsured, the product you may be selling to someone may be their first product. Do you see a behavioral change now? And I've asked other people this before, but I'm curious about these markets. Do you see a behavioral change in people where they're like, I don't need it, like me, for example, I don't need insurance, but then, oh my God, I really need it. And then once you have it, then they start getting it for other things as well. Do you know what I mean? So like I have health insurance, but like I dropped my phone 2 months ago and I didn't have phone insurance. And now I think it's really silly. Somebody was making fun of me for this yesterday, somebody that you both know really well. She'll walk in here later. But the point is that like, it's kind of changed my behavior in one place, but not in another place. But do you see this behavioral change play because it's so greenfields?
Well, actually, from our experience, what we're seeing, and it's not only Nubank, but it's across the region. It's typically when people buy first a product, then they have a claim. The claim is fulfilled to their standards. There will be a higher will to buy the second, the third, and the fourth policy.
Yeah, because I mean, they'll probably, like, I feel silly that I didn't have health insurance because my health insurance is way less expensive than the thing that I needed to pay for, right? Yeah. I mean, you're laughing at it. I'm laughing at it too because it happened to me. But, like, I was lucky because I could afford it. But if you couldn't, like, you have real, like, that's a real peril. Where does data come into all this stuff, right? And as a newer company, how do you think about where the data that you're gathering helps you inform what the products are that you're building in a new product line for you?
So great question. Obviously, data is a huge topic. It can be its own, podcast series.
Yeah.
But I'll take maybe an unexpected lens on this one, which is again coming back to customers and how do we make their experience delightful and how do we make products relevant to them. One of the ways that I find really meaningful to use data, something as simple as not requiring a customer to re-enter their personal information, when they buy a product that is being sourced by a different vendor.
Sorry, go ahead, but I think this is the best answer to a data question as opposed to like data analytics and using artificial intelligence and machine learning and stuff like that, because nothing makes, I think, a consumer crazier than you already know this about me.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
You already know this. Like, why
enter
am I
my
telling you
name
this
and I have my name's long and then my address is long. It's like, oh, I got to type this out again.
Right.
So it's like, come on, like exactly, right? This. Let's make my experience, as efficient as possible, and just act like a considerate host. This is something that our new chief design officer, Ethan Eisman, he just joined us a few months ago. He spent time at places like Airbnb and others that are known for terrific design bar. And this notion of, just be a gracious host who's really been thoughtful about how do we make this the best possible experience. Asking someone for the same info in one room and then the other room and then again, like that really sucks. So, I mean, that's just one example of the other stuff also matters, but I feel,
But it's a really good point, right? This idea, and I'm going to use this actually from now on. I like this idea of just being a really good host. I mean, maybe because the guy came from Airbnb, that's the way that's the frame he uses. Right, but if you think about it, if you have guests in your house and they're staying for like 4 days, and on day one you'll go, would you like some coffee? And you're like, Americano. You're not going to put milk in it the next day if you're thinking at all about customer service or customer experience. And that's you just using that data to do that thing. And if you do, they'll just be like, what are you doing?
I fully agree on what Marcio was saying. There's also, as you were saying, like the typical hype on data. It's about doing micro-segmentation, whatever. And they have a take that it's not as cool, but I think it's the ultimate NPS enhancer. That is platforms such as Nubank. They have all this data about their clients. So let's take the life example. Someone who's been paying their life policy for years, and they have a mobile insurance, and they have this other insurance, and this other insurance. So they have this data on their insurance and on their behaviors, like they typically save every month and so on. And suddenly they buy insurance for their fourth mobile device because they love having new mobile devices.
Right.
And they have a claim on the 23rd hour of having that insurance for that mobile device for the new one. And in any case, that's a red flag for fraud because you've insured. Like you didn't even have it for 24 hours, dude. Come on. That's fraud from here in Singapore to São Paulo all the way.
If it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck, yeah.
But with the use of data, you can skip those processes and say, guys, we've known this client forever. We know this is not a fraudulent client. And then when we'll do that, the NPS will skyrocket because that customer will be a Nubank client forever.
Right. They'll be super impressed. In the introduction of new products, right, are there patterns of stuff, whether it's in one country or in the whole region, that have surprised you, where you were like, I didn't think that was going to happen?
I think I spoke earlier of the mobile devices. So that was that's an example that I have in mind for this. I'll give you another example. When we launched, we spoke about our life policy and how we really worked to make it accessible, very low price point relative to what had been, in the market before. Now, necessarily that comes with a lower, what we call sum assured. So, the payout amount. And it turned out after, being in the market for a while and speaking to clients that some clients wanted a higher sum assured because they had, more assets or, more things that they needed to protect. It's a great thing to hear, right? Like, hey, your clients want more of what you're offering. Like,
I want to give you more, business basically.
Yeah, and create more value. And then we have to solve this problem of, okay, but the way that we structured this product, doesn't allow for that because maybe we need a bit more information. So then we get to sit back and say, great, let's solve this amazing problem of clients want to buy more from us. And then knowing that demand is there, of course, always makes it easier to, say, let's invest in this and, let's get this thing delivered.
At the end of the day, we design for a product, we try to build with the customizations to the country, and suddenly, I don't know, in Chile, people have a larger GDP per capita, and it's a more profound market than the rest of Latin America. And at the end of the day, they want products that cover more. Sometimes you get surprised on how large this difference is compared to Argentina, that it's next to it, and there isn't such a large difference between the GDP per capita between Chile and Argentina, but apparently Chileans love to get much more insurance than Argentinians. So it's kind of funny the spread between amount of sum insured against the spread of GDP per capita.
Is not like 1-to-1.
No,
but that's super interesting.
It's not linear. There are non-linear behaviors.
But that's super interesting, right? Because there is a reason for it, and then solving for that reason may actually be something that's product related or cultural related. I think it's super interesting. Okay, before I let you guys go, what is the boldest idea you believe is still worth pursuing, even if it sounds a little bit crazy today?
There's this idea speedballing around Chubb forever, and it's sponsored by our very own Gabriel Lázaro, that is building like the Spotify of insurance.
Yep, I've heard him say it.
About building like your playlist and whatever. I don't even know if it's going to ever happen. I love to have it in the back of my head as something that would be completely disruption of it, as a let's call it like as a North Star. Perhaps it doesn't
happen, but you're always aiming for it, though. Yeah?
At least it keeps you on the right track of saying we need to innovate, we need to be something to be different from a traditional insurer, and we need to be very humble on that. We are still on day one of digital disruption from the insurer perspective. So please don't want me and I want to have the Spotify of insurance, because I'm not even convinced on the idea. But I love the provocation he brings to the team.
Yeah. So I want to make a point about this, and then I'll get to you in a second. In the same way that I said that I can feel this ethos from Nubank, right? I feel a different ethos, but this is what I feel about Chubb, is that the senior management sets these North Stars that the rest of the people that work here actually believe in, if that makes sense. And that because of that, the ability to produce at a high level is there because everyone knows what that guide is of the North Star, and they're kind of being guided by it. And I think it's super prevalent in the way, and we've spoken to so many people at Chubb, we can feel it, if that's fair.
Cool. So I think one concept here that I definitely think about around claims experience, there's just some work that's required. There's some friction, depending on what the exact product is, and justifying something did happen, and putting it on again that sort of gracious host hat. Like, it sucks to have to go out and get a bunch of documents and then figure out how do I like move it from take a photo, then I got to upload it to this place, and then I got to wait some time for someone to read it. making that sort of that moment of truth, that claims experience magical. Like, can it be automatic? Can we just know something happened?
Just happen, yeah.
And then the money's in your account, like, half a second later. I mean, that won't be possible on some level. There's data sharing
For some things,
and
right?
all these
For some
things.
things, yeah.
But again, to your point, it's a North Star. Like, how do we get as close to that as possible?
Perfect. Marcio van Muhlen, General Manager of Insurance at Nubank, and Ignacio Sagués, Head of Digital for Chubb at LATAM. Thank you both for coming to Insurance the New Possible. You were awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.